everyone. My name is Ashtin COF. I want to ask you guys something. When was the last time you didn't know the answer to a question and researched that answer, but used traditional research like books, articles, textbooks, maybe a face-to-face interview? Probably for your assignments for one of your classes, am I right? If it wasn't a requirement to use a legitimate primary source, you'd probably just Google it, wouldn't you? I mean, the World Wide Web is literally in your pocket. A couple taps of your fingers and you got the answer that you need. Or when you're bored and had nothing to do, didn't you just put on Netflix and binge your favorite show or a new show? Whether you like it or not, technology has become a huge part of our everyday lives. We don't go outside enough, we don't do physical activity enough, some don't even see the sun as often as they should. I'm here to tell you guys that we as a society are way too dependent on technology. Technology is our source of communication, entertainment, and information. We text, we DM, we Snapchat, etc. Social media keeps us connected to our friends, family, celebrities that we love. We use phones every day to communicate with people, yet we rarely talk to each other. And when I say talk, I mean like physical, face-to-face talk to each other. Because we don't absolutely need to. Why should we? If we wanted to talk to each other, we could just FaceTime. We text hourly, daily, basically every minute. When you go to a restaurant and see people with their friends, a lot of them are on their phones looking down and not really being present in the environment that they are in. It's like there's always going to be something more interesting. Communicating online replaces a small number of strong social connections with a larger number of less lighter connections. It's all about the likes and the number of followers we have, and we have come too dependent on this large number and care less about real-world companions. According to an article in Psychology Today, more than a third of our children under the age of 2 use mobile media, and that number only increases as children age, with 95% of teens spending their time online. Technology is also obviously our source of entertainment. Video games, binge-watching shows, music, we basically lose so much time because of it, especially over the summer where days go by and you don't even realize it. With the easy access to literally anything in the world, technology has given us all of our entertainment, games, music, movies, shows, all at the snap of our fingers in the comfort of our own home. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Video games are nothing new, and video game addictions are always talked about. Games are designed so you don't stop playing and you want to finish to the end. They're an outlet to physical activity. Not many people like to do physical activity or go outside when they're bored. They would much rather be in the comfort of their own home without putting a lot of effort out. So many tests and surveys and factual research have been done, as I'm sure you have all heard. We have come too dependent on online uses to cure our boredom. According to the Northwest Primary Care, Americans got 32% less exercise and were 43% more sedentary in 2009 than in 1965. In a study of college students, those who used their smartphones had poorer results on cardiorespiratory fitness tests than the less addicted. According to another study from Pew Research Center, aided by the convenience and constant access provided by mobile devices, especially smartphones, 92% of teens report going online daily, including 24% who say they go online almost constantly. Technology is our source of information. Technology gives us so much factual data and evidence. Everything is in our pockets. This whole speech was researched online. Couple taps of my fingers and I got the evidence I need. It's convenient, it's easy, and it's fast, and it can be dependable if done correctly. But the whole point is that it's right there for us to take advantage of. And that's what we do with technology. We take advantage of it. We depend on it to be there for us. We can find books online, textbooks, primary sources, journals. Google has scholarly articles online for researching that can be used as primary sources, and there are databases all over the internet. Research no longer needs to be library-based because there are libraries online, at the tip of our fingers and at the comfort of our homes without having to go anywhere. Technology is all around us, there's no arguing that. A little too much of anything is never good, but we have come dependent as much as we don't like to admit it. Things are easier, and as technology advances, it will just keep getting easier. Dependency might not be a bad thing after all. Thank you.
Well, the proposition's identified, but the problem is when you say way too dependent, that suggests that there is a degree of dependence that's appropriate and a degree of dependence that's inappropriate, and we don't have a criteria for determining what that is. You're on the brink of making a value argument here, suggesting that the overdependence is in some way displeasing or problematic because it affects our, the quality of our lives, so to speak. And I'm not sure that you document that as thoroughly as you need to be able to make that inference. At the end, in fact, you almost contradict your position, and I think you know that you're doing that by being ironic. It may not be too bad. It might not be a bad thing that everything is easy after all. And I'm sitting here. That's exactly what I was thinking. So your argument is that everything's getting better. It's easier to do. And that's a bad thing. Why? The closest you come to pointing out that there's something problematic about that is the issue about exercise or outdoor activity. After that, nothing seems to be particularly problematic about the ease with which people have access to information. And even before that, it's mostly how widespread access exists as opposed to what the consequence of that access is. So there's really only one point that gets to the place where it says it's too much. And that's because we are sacrificing our physical health to some degree. And you just have one piece of information on that, and you're attributing it entirely to the technological changes that have taken place. I don't know that you could trace it, for example, to some like computer changes. There are plenty of other changes that have happened in the world since 1965, which is when your data started, that don't have to do with internet technology or any of those sorts of things. They have to do with other kinds of innovations. Maybe that technology would fit into the category that you're talking about as well. I can't really tell. There's no preview of what the structure is going to be, so most of the information seems like it's kind of stream of consciousness. You are following a pattern of thinking. Now, sometimes it makes perfect sense, but other times it's a little bit harder to follow. I think it would be better if you had a structure that everybody could pick out and they could hold on to the information a little more definitively and remember why it is that they're listening to this particular point. It did sound like I said in the middle that there is a point that talks about a physical consequence, but outside of that, I'm not sure that I could tell you what the first and the third points were, or whether there was even a first or a third point. It seems like it's kind of generic information about the use of technology. You had some statistical information, which I thought was pretty effective. You use hypotheticals. I'm not exactly sure that the hypotheticals are the most important way of proving something. Like the one statistic, like I said, about how much less activity we have compared to 1965. And by the way, your data, that's a little old, 2009. That's 9 years old now. Maybe it's changed in the last 9 years. I don't know. I was too lazy to check it. The idea that there's constant access, that we can entertain ourselves. If you could show that there's a consequence to doing that, then I might say there's too much. But right at the end, you kind of seem to acknowledge that maybe it's a good thing after all. So where is the argument here? That's the thing that's problematic. Do we have a lot of technology? Yes. Does it mean that we don't do some things the way we used to do them? Yes. Is it having a harmful effect? You've got the one harm that you mentioned. Other than that, I'm not exactly sure why it's a bad thing. All right. Thank you.